I knew something was off the second I stepped into the house. It wasn't just the eerie silence or the faint, stale odor that wafted from the walls. It was the feeling, the kind that settles into your bones before your brain catches up. This house was supposed to be my fresh start, an old Victorian that had stood the test of time in a quiet neighborhood. It was a bargain, too, a red flag I'd ignored in my rush to leave the chaos of city life. The previous owner had left in a hurry, the realtor said, but nothing to worry about. She laughed nervously when I pressed her. The first night, I didn't unpack much. I set up my bed in the room at the top of the stairs, a cozy spot with a bay window overlooking the overgrown garden. Exhaustion hit me like a truck, and I collapsed into bed without a second thought. That's when it started. It was the sound of footsteps, heavy and deliberate, pacing the floor above me. The problem? There was no floor above me. I sat bolt upright, heart hammering in my chest. The noise continued, circling the perimeter of the room above, which, as far as I knew, was just an attic. I told myself it had to be an animal, a raccoon maybe, but the steps were too measured, too human. Gripping my phone like a lifeline, I crept out of bed and flipped on the hallway light. It flickered once before stabilizing. Slowly, I made my way to the attic door. It was an old pull-down ladder kind, and the rope hung just above my head. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed against my ears, so thick it was almost physical. My hand hovered over the rope for what felt like an eternity before I finally pulled it. The ladder creaked as it unfolded, each sound slicing through the quiet like a knife. With my phone flashlight aimed into the dark void above, I climbed one trembling step at a time. "Hello!" My voice sounded small and ridiculous. The beam of light cut through the attic's shadows, revealing dusty boxes and forgotten furniture. Nothing moved. I let out a shaky breath and stepped up fully into the space. Then I saw it. Near the far wall, something was scratched into the wooden floorboards. My flashlight wavered as I stepped closer. The words were jagged, like they'd been carved in a frenzy. "Get out." A sudden bang behind me sent me spinning around. The attic door had slammed shut, plunging me into darkness. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The only light came from my phone, which now seemed dim and inadequate against the oppressive darkness. The attic felt smaller, the air thicker, as if the room itself was closing in on me. "Stay calm," I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible. But my legs had other ideas. They refused to move, rooted to the dusty floor like I'd been nailed down. Then, the sound came again, a low, guttural creak, like wood bending under pressure. It wasn't the house settling. It was deliberate, coming from somewhere behind me. My flashlight beam quivered as I swung it around, but it caught nothing except boxes, an old rocking chair, and a broken mirror leaning against the wall. I backed toward the attic door, fumbling for the handle to pull it down. My fingers found it and tugged, but the door wouldn't budge. Another noise, a scuffling, dragging sound, sent my pulse racing. This time it came from above. I tilted the light upward, toward the rafters. That's when I saw it. At first, it looked like a shadow, a blot against the beams. But then it moved. Long, spindly limbs unfolded, unnaturally slow, revealing a figure crouched high in the rafters. Its body was twisted, like it had been stuffed into a space far too small for far too long. I couldn't make out its face. Its head was tilted at an impossible angle, but I could feel it watching me. The weight of its gaze pressed on my chest like a vice. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My hand scrabbled at the attic door handle again, yanking and twisting with all the strength I could muster. It finally gave way, and the ladder unfolded with a deafening crash. The thing in the rafters moved. It didn't climb down. It fell, folding and unfolding midair like some grotesque spider. I didn't wait to see it land. I launched myself down the ladder, nearly breaking an ankle as I hit the hallway floor. My flashlight slipped from my hand, spinning wildly and casting erratic beams of light up the walls. Behind me, the attic door slammed shut again, the sound reverberating through the house. I staggered backward, keeping my eyes on the ceiling. Everything was silent, but my mind screamed at me to run. I bolted down the stairs, grabbing my car keys from the kitchen counter. As I reached the front door, I glanced back. One last mistake. In the dim light of the hallway, I saw it at the top of the stairs. It wasn't hiding anymore. Its limbs stretched unnaturally long, its joints bending the wrong way. Its head lolled to one side, and though its face was obscured, I could feel the malice radiating from it. The last thing I saw before I slammed the door and ran to my car was the thing beginning to move down the stairs. Slowly, deliberately, like it had all the time in the world. I didn't stop running until I was in my car, slamming the door shut and locking it with shaking hands. My breath came in shallow gasps as I fumbled with the keys, dropping them twice before managing to shove them into the ignition. The engine sputtered to life. Relief flooded through me for a split second, until I glanced back at the house. The attic window, which had been dark when I moved in, now glowed faintly. It wasn't the warm light of a bulb. It was pale, flickering, like a distant fire seen through fog. And then, in the center of the glow, I saw it, the figure. It stood motionless, watching me, its elongated limbs pressed against the glass as though testing its boundaries. I hit the gas, tires screeching as I peeled out of the driveway. My eyes darted between the road and the rearview mirror, expecting to see the thing chasing me. But there was nothing, just the empty, winding streets of my new neighborhood. I drove aimlessly for what felt like hours, heart pounding and mind racing. Where could I go? Who would believe me? Hey, so there's a monster in my house wasn't exactly something you could call 911 about without earning yourself a psych evaluation. Finally, I pulled into an all-night diner parking lot. The fluorescent lights above the building flickered, but they felt like safety compared to the oppressive dark of the house. I parked near the entrance, left the car running, and slumped back into the seat. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, startling me. I picked it up, expecting to see spam or a missed call, but it was a notification from an app one didn't remember downloading. Welcome to new house. What the hell? I muttered, swiping the screen. The app opened to a single interface, a map of the house. Every room was outlined in sharp detail, complete with labels. Living room, kitchen, master bedroom, attic. My stomach churned as I noticed a blinking red dot. It was moving, slowly but steadily, from the attic to the second-floor hallway. No, I whispered, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. The dot moved again, stopping briefly before continuing its path down the stairs. My eyes widened as I realized what it was tracking. It wasn't just showing me the house. It was showing me the thing. I threw the phone onto the seat like it was on fire, staring at it as though it might explode. The rational part of my brain screamed that I needed to leave it alone, but something else, morbid curiosity or sheer terror, forced me to pick it up again. The red dot had stopped. It was in the living room. My pulse hammered in my ears as I watched the screen. Suddenly, a new notification popped up. See who's home. Against my better judgment, I tapped it. The screen switched to a grainy live feed of the living room, clearly taken from a camera inside the house. The room was empty at first, just the shadows of furniture cast by the moonlight streaming through the windows. Then the figure stepped into view. It moved with slow, jerking motions, its body too large for the space, its limbs brushing against the walls as it crossed the room. It paused in front of the couch, tilting its head unnaturally, like it was listening for something. The camera feed crackled, distorting briefly, and when it cleared, the thing was staring directly at the lens. At me. The phone vibrated violently in my hand. Another notification. It knows where you are. I dropped the phone like it had bitten me. My eyes darted to the diner's glass entrance, scanning for any sign of movement. The parking lot was empty. The fluorescent lights buzzed, but nothing seemed out of place. And then the lights flickered. For just a split second, the glass door reflected something. Something tall, something with too many limbs, standing just behind my car. My body reacted before my brain could catch up. I threw the car into reverse, the tires screeching as I slammed on the gas. The reflection in the diner's glass door vanished, replaced by the blinding glare of my own headlights. I didn't care where I was going as long as it was away. Away from that house. Away from that thing. But as I swerved out of the lot and onto the road, I caught a glimpse in my rearview mirror. Something tall and unnatural chasing after me. Its limbs moved too fast, stretching out in ways that shouldn't have been possible. It wasn't just chasing me. It was gaining on me. No, no, no! I screamed, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I floored the gas pedal, the engine roaring in protest as I pushed it to its limit. Streetlights blurred into streaks of gold as I sped through the empty streets, each second stretching into an eternity. And then suddenly the thing stopped. It froze mid-stride, standing in the middle of the road like a grotesque statue. For a brief, stupid moment, I thought I was safe, that I'd outrun it. But as I glanced at my phone, still lying on the passenger seat, a new notification popped up. It's already inside. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt in the middle of the road. My breath came in ragged gasps as I turned to look at the back seat. Nothing. Empty. But the oppressive feeling of being watched crept over me, thick and suffocating. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was there. Suddenly, the car stalled. The engine sputtered and died, plunging me into silence. My phone vibrated again, the screen flashing a final message. You can't run. The air in the car grew colder, each breath visible as mist. Then I heard it. A faint, wet scraping sound, like nails dragging across metal. It was coming from the roof. I didn't think. I flung the door open and bolted into the night. The woods loomed ahead, dark and unwelcoming, but they felt safer than staying in the open. Branches tore at my skin as I plunged deeper into the trees, each step a desperate effort to escape. The sound followed me, louder, closer, that wet, grating noise, accompanied by a low, guttural growl that made my insides twist. I didn't dare look back. Finally, I burst into a clearing, stumbling and falling to my knees. Moonlight bathed the area in a ghostly glow, and for a moment, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then I saw it. The thing emerged from the shadows, its grotesque body illuminated by the pale light. Up close, it was worse than I imagined. Its skin was mottled and gray, stretched too tightly over its bones. Its face was a hollow void, save for two burning points of light where eyes should have been. It didn't move. It didn't have to. The air itself seemed to bend around it, heavy and suffocating. My vision blurred, and my body felt like it was sinking into the ground. Why? I croaked, my voice barely a whisper. What do you want? The thing tilted its head, almost curious. Then, in a voice that was not a voice but a scraping echo inside my skull, it answered, You. I don't remember what happened next. One moment I was staring into the abyss of its eyes, and the next, I woke up on the side of the road, the sun rising over the horizon. My car was gone, my phone was gone, and the woods were eerily silent. I told myself I imagined it, that it was some kind of waking nightmare. But when I returned to the house, when I saw the front door ajar and the attic window shattered, I knew I wasn't imagining anything. I left that house the same day, leaving everything behind. I didn't care. Some things aren't worth holding on to, no matter the cost. But sometimes late at night I feel it. The cold air. The weight of unseen eyes. And I know it's still out there, waiting. For me. For anyone who dares to come too close to the new house.